Hi guys, welcome back again to Dinner Guide. I'm your host and chef, Sheena Amario. Today we're going to be making some bacon mac and cheese. Bacon mac and cheese is basically American inspired, that's what I'll call it. Usually they have like a mac and cheese, but I'm taking mine a notch higher and I'm going to be adding some bacon. Ooh, because I love bacon, that's why. But anyway, yeah, so to start off with the ingredients, we're going to be having we've got some herbs and then now the main pasta ingredients. So we're going to be having some pepper, some salt, some paprika. This is just some cheddar cheese, some dry cheddar cheese, some bacon, some butter or margarine, some French sticks which I'm going to make into breadcrumbs. And then I have my pasta here. The pasta I'm using is fusilli pasta and the macaroni type of pasta, which is the elbow pasta, as well as some flour. And then I've got different types of cheeses here. Nothing too scary. Everything you can get from the supermarket should be easy for you to find. Plus it should be a good way for you to try and get to taste the different cheeses. So what I have here is some mozzarella cheese. So mozzarella is nice and white. That's mozzarella cheese. Then I have got two types of cheddar cheese. I have a white cheddar cheese as well as a yellow type of cheddar cheese. And then I've got Parmesan cheese. This is my fresh Parmesan cheese. This is the dry one. The one I've just showed you here is the dry one. Okay. And then I've got milk and some herbs. The herbs I'm using today are some parsley as well as some basil leaves, and of course olive oil. Where would I be without olive oil? I think I use it almost in everything I do. So I just want to start off my heat here. I just want to leave this. So we just want to put on our cooker so the water can start boiling for the pasta. And then in this water, I'm going to add some salt as well as some olive oil. And the olive oil just helps so that the pasta does not stick to each other. So just a drizzle of olive oil, not too much. And then we're going to add some salt. Oh, I got some butter. I'll just wipe that off. So we're going to add a bit of some salt. This is just to season the water. Anytime you're making pasta or rice, always make sure that you're seasoning your water because they're pretty bland dishes. Cereals tend to be very bland, which is not like the pasta or your rice, potatoes as well, which are in the starch family, but they tend to be bland. So anything you season in the water, they tend to absorb that flavor. So just remember that anytime you're making dishes that don't have their own flavors, whereby they're very bland in themselves. So I'm just going to cover this briefly. And then I'm going to start grating my cheese so that when you guys come back from the break, my water will be boiling. I'll have added my pasta in there so we can get ahead now to the sauce. We're going to make a nice creamy white sauce, which I'm going to now add some cheese into it, and then it becomes a nice cheesy sauce. Then we're going to add the pasta in there, then it's going to go into the oven, not the microwave, into the oven. Yeah, so in the meantime, I'm going to grate my cheeses. Like I've mentioned, I have some Parmesan cheese. I've got some cheddar cheese, two types. One is yellow and the other one is just white. And then I've got some mozzarella cheese. So that's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to grate this and then we're going to go on a short break so that when you guys come back, the cheese will be grated. My water will have boiled. Then the pasta will go in there. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do with all the cheese. I'm just grating it, so nothing extraordinary. Any grater you have at home, that's all you're going to use. So we're going to go on a short commercial break, and when you guys come back, we'll continue with the rest of the process. See you in a little bit. Hi guys, welcome back to Dinner Guide. I'm your host and chef, Sheena Amario. Now if you just tuned in, we're actually making a bacon mac and cheese. I mentioned earlier that a mac and cheese is a recipe that originates from America mainly, but we're going to go ahead and spice ours up. We're going to add some bacon to it and we're going to add some herbs as well, which is entirely optional. So now my water is boiling. If you just tuned in, I just put my water to boil where I'm going to add my pasta. Now I mentioned I'm using two types of pasta. The fusilli type of pasta, which is this type of pasta, and the elbow type of pasta, which is basically the macaroni kind of pasta that is mostly used with this type of dish. So just throw in your pasta into your boiled water. And in the boiling water, if you've just tuned in, I actually added some salt and some olive oil, just because I like to season the oil, that's the water. That's for one. And then two, the oil helps the pasta not to stick to each other. So for the cheeses, I went ahead and grated while you're on break. And what I mentioned we had earlier were different cheeses. I'm using 3 types of cheeses. So what I'm using is some Parmesan cheese, some fresh Parmesan cheese here. And then we've got some mozzarella cheese, which is the mozzarella cheese. Then we've got, this is a cheddar cheese, but I'm using 2 types of cheddar cheese. So one is just a young one that's white in color, and then the other one is a bit mature. It's actually a bit orangish, yellowish in color. So those are all the cheeses I'm using. Again, this is a mac and cheese recipe, like I've mentioned, so you need to have a lot of cheese in it. You need to go a bit all out on the cheese. So I'm going to start off with my bacon. So I just want to add some oil to my pan so that I can fry some bacon. As I wait for the pasta to cook, just give this a minute. There we are. Hold on. Okay, give this a minute, put on our cooker so that we can cook now the bacon, as we wait for the pasta. So reduce the heat, a reasonable amount of heat. I'm going to get my my bacon here and then just start chopping it up. So whichever bacon you want to use, I'm using collar bacon, but if you've got any other type of bacon you prefer, for example, like streaky bacon, you can make it work. Use the bacon you prefer. I like collar bacon because it has got a good amount of meat to it as to the fat ratio. So that's just how I like my bacon. So I don't know about you guys at home. How do you like your bacon? Do you like it with a lot of fat in it? Less of the fat? There's also back bacon. So you can just go ahead, when you go to the supermarket the next time, just have a look around and see what bacons they have and try something out. If you've been trying one type of bacon, perhaps try a different one. Okay, so my bacon has been cut up into reasonably small-ish chunks, medium-sized chunks, let's call them that. So once your bacon has been cut up, we're just going to add it to our oil, and our pan is hot. Always remember to listen for the sizzle sound. Then we're going to fry off our bacon, and then in this other pan, I'm going to start this other pan with some fat, and the fat I'm using for it is some margarine. So just stir your bacon. Try and reduce your heat. Make sure your heat is not too high. And then just keep stirring. You don't want your bacon to burn. And I don't want it to be too brown. I'm just cooking it. That's all I'm doing at this stage. Again, check to make sure all the temperatures are okay. And then in this pan, we're going to go ahead and add some of our margarine. You could use butter as well. So a good amount. And to give my dish some extra flavor, whatever fat renders from my bacon, I'm actually going to add it into the sauce that I'm about to make. So go ahead and then light this so we can start melting off the margarine. So we're about to use all the space we have here. This is what I mean when you're in the kitchen. You always have to be aware of whatever it is you're making. Try and multitask if you can. But if you can't, that's okay too. You can just make one dish at a time. There's no harm. The bacon smells lovely. Yum. Now if you don't take a pork bacon, of course you could get beef bacon. But I just love pork bacon. There's just the fat in it, the way it renders, the ratio, it's good. It's nice and tasty. Again, keep stirring this. So this stove always seems to have a problem every time I'm using it, but that's okay. I'm just going to light it again. Give it a minute. My bacon is good enough actually. It's well cooked and the fat has rendered. Yes, this looks good. So I'm just going to place this aside. Just let it cook with the remaining residue heat in the pan. And then in the meantime, as I'm waiting for my margarine to actually melt in there, I'm going to get some garlic. Now I love using garlic in almost everything I cook. If you don't like garlic, then you can definitely not use it. It's still optional. Well, one got away. I'll just add some more. So I'm going to turn my board here because I used it to chop the meat. Then I'm just going to wipe my knife. And usually I like to just place something on my board so that it's nice and balanced and stable and it will not move around. So my butter has actually melted, so we're going to put that off as I chop my garlic. Again, like I've mentioned, always be aware of everything you're doing in the kitchen so you don't end up burning one thing. So chop this. We're going to add some garlic to our butter here. A good amount of garlic, so 2 cloves for me is fine. But I'm going an extra mile. I'm adding another extra one. So like I've mentioned, the mac and cheese uses a lot of cheese, and that's all it is. It's macaroni and cheese in simple layman's terms. And the cheese is basically a cheese sauce, and of course you top it with some extra cheese to melt it off in the oven. So I'm just going to finish chopping up my garlic here. Just a rough chop, it doesn't have to be too fine. And once you're happy with the consistency, like I am now, you can now then add it to your melted butter. Okay, so this is good. Again, if you don't like garlic, use less. So we're going to add it to our melted butter here. And then we're going to just fry this until it's nice and aromatic. That's a key word here, aromatic. Or fragrant, whatever word you want to use. So that basically just means that it's going to be nice and the flavors are going to release themselves and you're going to smell them. So that's what I mean by aromatic and fragrant. And there we are. And already I can smell it because the pan is hot, remember, and the butter has just melted off. So I'm going to go ahead and light this so I can keep an eye on it now. I'm going to try and reduce the heat. Hopefully it won't give me much trouble. Nope. And again, we're back. Okay. Let's try the one closer to me. Okay. So I'm going to just reduce the heat a little bit so that it does not burn. Oh, I can already smell the garlic in this. It smells lovely. Then stir your pasta and check on it. So you want your pasta to be nice and cooked, but not to the point that it's mush. So you want it to be what we call as chefs al dente, which means it has a bite to it. I'll leave that for like a minute. In fact, I'll put off the water so it can just cook with the water. Because remember, it's going to cook again in the oven, so you don't want it to overcook. So what we're going to add in here now is some flour, which is right here. So get your spoon, and then once your garlic is aromatic, it tends to brown very quickly. So put off our heat here. Once it's aromatic, it's time to now add our flour. A good amount of flour, because this is what is going to thicken your sauce. And then you start stirring that in. Yum. And this is what is going to happen. It's going to form what we call now a roux. And once you have this, you're going to go ahead. I'm going to put on my heat back again now. So this is what you get. You get a roux. Now if you put less flour, then your roux is going to be on the lighter side. It's not going to come together like mine has, which is fine. So it just depends how you want yours. So once that's done, you're going to bring this back. We're going to light this. Just giving this a minute to catch on. Just a minute. There we are. Reduce the heat. Then add your milk. So I'm adding some cold milk, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start stirring this. And because it tends to stick very quickly, I'm going to go ahead and get my whisk. Now if you're using a non-stick pan, try and use such this type of whisk because you don't want to use the metallic one. So try use the silicone based type of whisk that will not ruin your pan or your non-stick pan. But if you're using just a normal pan, then it's fine. Use the metallic whisk. So I'm just going to go ahead and whisk this, and you add a little milk at a time because you want your sauce to start thickening. But if you add too much milk, then it's going to be hard for you to whip it all together. So always start with a little at a time as you whisk it and go. And you're going to see the consistency is going to change. You're going to get a nice creamy color, and your sauce is just going to look nice and creamy. Okay, so we're going to go ahead. Make sure you're whisking all the way through and all the bits are nicely whisked. You don't want any lumps in your sauce, so try as much as possible to eliminate all the lumps you can, other than the garlic, of course. So my pasta actually, I believe, is done now. I want to just put it aside and then have a look at it so that I can drain it, because like I mentioned, the pasta is going to cook and I'm going to add it into my sauce here. So place that aside. The sauce is thickening, as you can see. Now it's time to add our remaining milk. So just add your milk as you stir. Again, try and remember to keep your consistency. Stir, add your milk, stir, add your milk, stir, and so forth and so forth and so forth. So it's a delicate sauce. So in the meantime, I'm going to be straining my pasta, and then because I'm making a pasta dish, I'm going to save some of this water because I might need it later, and I don't want to add water to my pasta. So it's always a good idea to actually retain some of your water. So that's what I'm going to do here, just like a cup of water, then drain out the rest. So I'm just going to go ahead and drain this and then place it aside. Place that aside, and then now back to our sauce. Check on your sauce, remember. And I'm going to add the remaining of my milk because I think it's good at this stage. We can add all of it. I have a good consistency going. Again, just remember to keep stirring, and it's going to thicken nicely. And then we're going to test our sauce as we go. We're going to season this with some salt and black pepper. And then because now our pasta is ready and everything is coming together, we don't want to waste too much time. We're going to put it on our oven as well as we wait for the sauce to thicken to the consistency we want it to. So for the oven, I'm putting it at 200 degrees just to get it ready. And then I'm just going to set the timer to start off with to about 30 minutes. But we're going to use less time than that. For the pasta bake, we're using about 15 minutes for it. So I'm just going to put on the oven here and then give it some time to get hot. In the meantime, check on my sauce. Now I can add the heat because now your sauce has come together. It's no longer lumpy. So then we're going to go in with our wooden spoon and just make sure that all the sides are actually nicely whisked. And if they aren't, then you're going to whisk those edges. Because most times when you're using a whisk, it's not able to go through all the corners of the pan. So you kind of just want to make sure you do that with your wooden spoon. Then at this stage, I'm going to taste my sauce. I know it doesn't have much of any seasoning, but then I did use margarine that had salt in it. So depending if you're using salted margarine or butter, put that into accountability when you're about to season, because that will make up for some of the salt. And I'm going to add bacon as well. So that's why I'm keeping my seasoning to a minimum. At this moment, I can taste now the garlic because nothing else is in there. So I'm going to put my flour aside as I don't need it anymore. And then I'm going to check on my sauce again. Now it's getting nice and thick. So just reduce the heat, which we have. Then now we're going to go ahead and add the cheese. It's that moment of truth. Okay. So if you love cheese, this is the moment for you. We're adding all our delicious cheese. Yum, yum, yum. So we're going to add our mozzarella cheese. And I'm only going to leave a little bit aside that I'm going to use later for my topping. So add your mozzarella cheese, add your cheddar cheese, all the different types of cheddar cheese that I mentioned to you I'm using. Yes, yum. I know you're thinking, oh my God, all that cheese, yes. This dish is meant to be nice and creamy and rich, very rich. And of course the Parmesan cheese. So I'm going to place this aside because I plan to use some more cheese again for my topping, just to give it a nice caramelized look in the oven when it's almost done. So I'm just going to finish stirring this, and then we're going to add our pasta. Again, low heat. Ooh, you see that? It's already melting. Yum. So again, I haven't seasoned, but I'm going to add some black pepper because you know me and black pepper. But I don't want to add anything else at this point, just because, like I said, everything else has salt. The margarine I used has salt, my bacon has salt, the cheese has salt. So I just want to taste it first before I add any seasoning. So this is nice and rich, very rich. And that's exactly what you're looking for. Look, the cheese is nice and melty. Oh, yum. I'm already hungry. I don't know if I'm making you guys hungry as well, but I am. So what I'm going to do is get some of the bacon that I mentioned I was making earlier, which you can see it's already cooked. So I'm just going to add this in here. We're just going to throw in some chunks in there. And then the remaining one, I'm going to just leave it aside for later. That piece was trying to run away, but nothing gets away. I was going to use some of the fat, but I can see it's not that much anyway for my seasoning. So we'll just add whatever is in there. And this just adds more flavor to your mixture. You don't have to use it. I'm just using it because I have it and because it will add more flavor. So this is good enough. We're going to set this aside now because my sauce is nice and rich and creamy. That's the key word here, creamy. I'm going to test the sauce and then see what I feel is missing. Because again, remember, you always have to taste your food as you're cooking. It's very essential. Otherwise, if you don't taste it, who will? And how will you know the seasoning if you don't taste it? So I'm your tester today. So I'm going to add now some salt, but very little, because again, remember, my pasta does have salt. So just add a little bit of salt. And then we're going to add a bit of the water from the pasta, just so our sauce is not too heavy, because I want to dilute it just a little bit. But you see, it's so nice and rich. So this by itself could be a nice dip. If you're making some fries, this is what you would spread on it and then top it with some extra cheese, of course, if you wanted to, that is. But since we're making pasta, that is where all this deliciousness is going to go into. So I'm just adding some of the pasta sauce. Like I mentioned, I like to save some because it does come in handy. And then just stir this lightly stir it. And then we're going to go ahead now and mix this into our pasta. So our sauce is nice and thick and creamy. Oh, yum. So what we're going to do with the sauce now is get my drained pasta. Remember, I drained my pasta. Set that aside. Then we're going to place this now on the board so that we can go ahead to get ready to plate our pasta. And then I'm just going to make sure that all the water is out. And then a tip, if you're making this maybe for a salad, all you'll have to do is just let it cool. Drizzle a bit of olive oil and then just spread it out to cool. You don't have to run any cold water on it. If you spread some olive oil, it won't stick together. So this is good. And look, my pasta is not broken. And that's what I mean, but when I was saying I wanted to have a small bite to it. Yum. Because I'm going to cook it further in the sauce and in the oven. Okay. And since I mentioned I was going to put this, then I remember I mentioned I wanted to add some parsley as well. So I'm just going to chop a bit of parsley into my sauce. Now you don't have to, this is optional, but because I love parsley, I'm just going to add some in there as well. So I'm just going to chop this, just a rough chop. And then we're going to add it to our sauce, or you could add it directly to your pasta. But I think it's nice to add it to our sauce as well. So we're going to add it to our sauce, and then stir it. And already the color changes. And then for the remaining one, we're just going to add it directly to our pasta, which is going to be mixed with the sauce anyway. So this is good. Now it's time for us to mix. We're going to go ahead and mix. And you can see all the nice cheesiness going on. Oh my god, I'm so hungry. Then we're just going to mix this delicately. Oh, yum. And you can see the cheese, the stringy cheese. You see that? I can smell all the aromas of the cheese right now. With your bacon, then again, let's get some of this bacon in here. We're not leaving our bacon out for nobody. We're using everything. So this is good enough. I'm now going to get my pasta dish, and then I'm going to go ahead and put my pasta in the dish so it can go into the oven. So I just want to clear up just a little bit, just a nice area so that I can put my dish like I've mentioned. So we're going to go ahead and put our pasta dish. Now I'm using a casserole dish. That's what I have. We can use a ceramic dish as well. Basically anything that's microwave oven friendly. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and then pour our sauce. And look how nice it looks. I know you want a taste of it. Oh, yum. Yum, 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 yum. Okay, so everything goes in there. And of course, you know me, I'm going to taste some for you and tell you what I think, because I've already seasoned it and then it's going to be delicious. Oh my god. I want to eat this right now. It's so good. So I'm just going to spread this evenly, put it in the oven, which is why I mentioned you need all this cheese, because the cheese is going to continue cooking and then it's going to be nice and rich and moist. Okay, so for right now I'm just going to put it as it is. Then I'm going to come back later and add a bit more cheese, and then we're going to add some breadcrumbs as well. So I'm taking it a whole top notch here. So we're going to go ahead and throw this in the oven. There we go. And then I'm going to set my timer here for about 15 minutes. So not too long, about 15 minutes or so. And then in the meantime, what I'm going to do is actually get my French sticks. Like I mentioned to you, I had some French sticks here. So I'm going to get those. And then I'll show you what I intend to do with them. Okay, so I'll just put this aside. So for the French sticks, all we're going to do with them is get them, and then we're going to grind them. And then what I'm going to make is actually, instead of making the regular breadcrumbs, I'm going to actually add the bacon in there, so you know it's going to be good because I'm adding bacon, and bacon makes everything taste better. So I think, I could be wrong, but that's just my version of things. So we're going to add this in here. Break your sticks, and then we're going to blitz this. So I'm just using some French sticks like I mentioned, but you could use whatever bread you have in the house. Some stale bread is good for this as well, because all we're doing is just making breadcrumbs. And then I'm going to add the bacon, and of course I'm going to add some herbs, because I love herbs. And I have parsley here. I'm going to add a bit of my parsley in there. Then I'm going to get my bacon, and I'm going to get ready to add this. But before that, I just want to blitz this up to loosen it a little bit before now adding my parsley and my bacon. So get your blender, make sure it is well set, and then make sure it's on. Put it on, then we're just going to blitz this. Okay. Then some more. Okay, this is good enough. So in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and actually add our, like I've said, our bacon and our herbs, because I wanted to first have my breadsticks just a little bit chopped so that they're not too hard to get over. So add a bit of your herbs. I'm using parsley here, and then add some of your bacon, your nice bacon. Now you can cut this a little bit further if you'd like to, which I will do. This is just taking your regular breadcrumbs in the house to a new level. So we're just going to chop this roughly. I'm going to throw this in here. I'm going to throw this in here and then cover it. Okay. Wipe your hands always. Then we're just blending. Now this is a good trick for you to take your breadcrumbs to your new level. So you've added bacon, I've added herbs in here. So it's no longer just regular breadcrumbs. It's a top higher. Okay, then it's time to open. Okay, I clearly put this on a little bit too tight. It may take me a minute. There we are. Okay, now we're going to taste. And look, the consistency, it's nice and fine. You see that? Everything is nice and fine. Whatever isn't, you can just remove it like that. That's one of the breads, which is why I mentioned earlier I wanted to get it fast in. We're going to have a taste. Yum. You can taste the bacon in this and the fat, because the fat has helped moisten the bread. It tastes so good. So what I'm going to do is take out my... Hold on. What I'm going to do now is just take out the pasta from the oven. Then I'm going to sprinkle it with a bit of the crumbs that we've made and a bit of the cheese. Then I'm going to put this back on. Then we'll go for a break, and when you guys come back, the pasta will be ready. So I'll just do that for you so you have an idea. So this is our pasta. Always remember to use your hand mittens when you're removing things from the oven. So we're going to go ahead now and add some of these nice breadcrumbs that have cheese. So that have bacon in them. Yeah. And you can see the bacon bits already, right? I know you can. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and now add the cheeses. Remember I mentioned I had a few mixed cheeses in here. I'm just going to add this. And what it's going to do is just melt. It's going to be nice and melted when we get it. Oh, yum. I really can't wait. Okay, so this is good enough. We're just going to now put this back in the oven. So what you want to do is basically cook your pasta. What you want to do now is just cook the pasta until the cheese is nice and melted and everything inside is nice, soft and cheesy. So let's go ahead and put this in the oven. So I'm going to put this in the oven for about 10 to 15 minutes. And make sure to keep a good eye on it because you don't want anything to burn. So once that's in there, we're going to close this, leave it on at 180 degrees for about 15 minutes or so. Then we're going to go on a short break so that when you guys come back, my casserole will be ready. Remember, I'm making a bacon mac and cheese. It's going to be ready. We're going to plate up. I'll have done some clearance and that'll be our dish for today. So see you in a little bit after the break. Hi guys, welcome back again to Dinner Guide. I'm your host and chef, Sheena Amario. Now if you just tuned in, we're about to wrap up, but not to worry. What we made, we've not presented our dish yet. So what we made today was some bacon mac and cheese, and just before the break we had actually put our bacon mac and cheese in the oven. So now it's ready. It's been about 15 minutes or so. So now I'm going to get it out, and like I mentioned, you want to make sure once you put your bacon mac and cheese in the oven, the cheese actually melts, and the crumb that I put, remember I put like a bacon crumble on top. So you want to make sure that that is nice and crispy before you take it out of the oven. And what you're looking for is a nice golden brown color. And already my mac and cheese looks so good. It smells good too. Remember to use some hand mittens. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and grab this from the oven. Remember your oven is pretty hot, so be careful. And then we're just going to place this on a board. I'm putting it on a board, but you can put it wherever you'd like to put it, to place it, that is. So that's it, that's our beautiful dish. So what I'm going to do is actually add a bit of some garnish, basically just some parsley leaves, because I have some. That's the main reason. So I'm just going to try and utilize them. So I'm just going to get my parsley leaves, and then I'm just going to chop a bit. And what you can see here, if you look at our pasta, like I mentioned, you see this? It's nice, and it's become nice and crusty, and it has got this nice golden brown color. Yeah. Don't mind if I take a little bite for you. Oh, look at this. The nice cheesiness. You see that? It's right in there. And this is nice and moist. So that's what I meant when I was talking about earlier, when I said you want to make sure that the top is nice and crispy, but the inside is nice and moist and cheesy. Oh, yeah. So it's going to be nice and delicious. So I'm just going to wait for this to cool, because I don't want to burn myself as much as I'm dying to taste it. Wouldn't that be funny? Okay. I'm just going to blow on it. Yeah. It's so good. So I'm just going to finish the garnishing, and then afterwards I'm going to demolish this dish because I'm looking forward to that, trust me. Okay, so we're just going to sprinkle a bit of the garnish on top, and because I have a parsley leaf here, I'm just going to put this in the center, because why not? It looks pretty already. We're just going to sprinkle some of the herbs around the parsley, that is. That one's a bit too big. Let's go with something a little smaller. Yep, so that's it, guys. So that's what we made today, some bacon mac and cheese. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. I'm really looking forward to eating the rest of the dish, because I am like starving. But I'm so glad you guys got to cook with me, enjoy the meal today. Yes, so I hope I'll see you in the next episode of Dinner Guide. I'm your host and chef, Sheena Amario. Be sure to check us out on social media, Instagram, we're online, Brand Plus TV, so be sure to check us out and we'll have a conversation there. So again, today's episode was mac and cheese, bacon mac and cheese, and I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, see you then. Bye.